Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're taking a look at the Copacabana beach and how it actually works. What do I mean by that? Well, here's a lovely way of drawing it out, and here's a way of how it looks like on Google Maps. So you basically have this little arc, and then you have roads going down there. So I thought, why not just create it in Grasshopper? Basically, like that. So if you want to come and follow along, then let's get into it. Great. So in this tutorial, we're going to see how you can basically have this front here, and then you can often just change around the parameters like that, and say, you know what, I want to have a few more rows of my buildings. Then, well, okay, now you have an entire city over there. Or let's just say, okay, you know what, I don't like it the way how it goes here. Let's just move this a little bit upwards here. And then recalculates, give it a few seconds, and then you have a whole amount of new buildings, just like this in a very easy way. We're just gonna pull it back here a little bit. The script is a little bit bigger, but just follow along, and then you can kind of understand of how it works and how the idea through it works. So let's get this back to like just 3 counts, or 2 is a little bit too much, right? Too little. Let's go to 5. So let me just deactivate the way how it looks here, and we're just gonna go step by step, one by one. So we are going to, it kind of like is shown already here like this. So we have a point here where you have all those lines coming from. And then you have an offset in between those lines where you are defining each surface one by one. So this is our base point, this is our base curve. This curve then gets divided into several pieces. Then those pieces basically have a connection to the initial points, and they then get extended further. While they get extended further, we are creating a series that creates an offset of the initial curve that we have created before. And then we're gonna shift the list just by 1, with not wrapping it, and then we're going to create 4 different surfaces, or depending on how many offsets you have. Those then get actually splitted by those things over here. When we have them splitted, we're creating just curves for it. Don't worry, it's shining up in red, but it doesn't matter. But we can remove the ones who did not really make it with the clean tree command. So then, we're going through this, we're going to create different offsets like this. But like, how do we want to do it? Well, we're creating basically a range of lists, or like a range of different values between 2.36 and 3.42. And those then get created by a domain. And this domain also gets into the negative. So I always right click on it, expression -x. And then we have basically the distances of all those different pieces here that get offsetted like that, like each piece. And we can have it obviously complete, like not random. So then they're all kind of like the same based on like their closeness, or we can have them completely random, and then they're like all over the place. It doesn't matter where they are. So now that we have that, we also want to create those pieces in like each of the individual buildings. So again, we're going to create a domain between from 2, do a -1 here, because the domain is like 1 step further than the amount of steps there are. And then we're going to create those little points in here. And those points, then we're going to use the divide curve as the parameters from the curve we want to divide. And now that we have that, we are actually going to, you guessed it, do another domain that goes from the offset though, because you would kind of want to we created those segments here in the first place, but now we want to go back and push them outwards again like this, you see? We're going from that and we push them outwards. And we want to do that by using the initial values that we had from the initial offset of the curve, and then do a little bit of an offset to those. So we have then each of those things has a individual offset as well. It's kind of like a range of a range almost. So now that we have those defined, we have the offset defined, and we also have our initial points. And now those two then get drawn together like this. And we're just gonna basically create the curve, like we had the offset, and we have to trim down the tree by one layer, because otherwise you see there just one value, but here there are actually like the several values. And those, then we take the endpoints and we stitch them together with merge, the lines like those, and the offset curves as well. Then we have those 4 points of each, or like the 4 lines for each curve, which is basically the curve we want to then manipulate further. Great. There's one more thing. There are sometimes kind of intersecting curves as well. We kind of want to remove those, you know, like those. There might be still in there, but just like this is just a basic measure. We just basically use the curve self command, see if the list of points who are intersecting events, where intersecting events are happening, is greater than 1, and then we're going to remove those with the dispatch pattern. But be careful, because we flatten it here, we also have to flatten that as well. Great, and now that we have our curve created here, you know what, we're doing it again. We're not really doing a range again, but we are we're using the initial point that we have and search for all the different areas or all the different rectangles, the points in the middle, and then we're going to use a 1 over x. So basically, before this would have been like a short amount, and 1 over x basically flips them around and makes that all those values are less than 0. So it's like 1 divided by like x higher minus 1, or 1 divided by x. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. And then we basically have our curve defined here, and then we're actually using a plugin which is called pufferfish, but you can also do it in another way. And the other way would be to create the extrusion of the polyline that we created here in the end, then actually cap it, and then once it's capped, we are going to use the mesh brep. So then our brep is going to be a mesh and not a NURB anymore. Then we have to flatten this, or in this case it's already flattened, and then we just mesh them together. And then we're going to create our custom preview with that. And again, we can manipulate all those different features. For example, if we say, okay, you know what, I want to have the offset a little bit different. So then let's actually, first of all, I want to create it from those ones because it's a little bit more smooth lined. It's a little more smoother. I want to create the block size, which might be a little bit like, I don't know, let's make it to 5, for example. And then our blocks, well, there might be some weird results as you see right here, but maybe we can decrease it a little bit or do this to 1, so we have like more variety of the block sizes. Or we can say, okay, I want to create this to 3, and then we have, I think, overall different block size. And then again, we want to change the overall shape a little bit like that. And maybe I actually want to change the block size a little bit back. And then I should have them like they were before, more or less. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm in a good mood today. And I'm just gonna create increase the count to 10. And then I have like a gigantic city that is like till the end of time almost. Yeah, great. And yeah, that's the power of Grasshopper. I mean, we literally just spent 9 minutes on this and we have a gigantic city. Obviously, the thought process might take a little bit longer to understand how it kind of works, but we have like a very individual blocks with individual heights, with individual components, which creates a gigantic amount of different possibilities. And obviously, again, if you want to change the parameters around, it's easily doable. So yeah, obviously it takes a while to manipulate the things a little bit, but think that's always kind of like worth it to, I don't know, have this in a way. So yeah, so this is my interpretation, or our interpretation, of the Copacabana beach in Rio de Janeiro. So yeah, thank you much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I think I want to try more urbanistic things as well, so we can kind of see how those things work. And yes, have a great day. Enjoy the time. If you have any questions, let me know, please. If you have any ideas, let me know. And see you in the next one.